Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We all have challenges in our life. It's ever changing. There's things popping up from time to time. You got to navigate it. You got to work your way through it. Sometimes you just need to go with the flow. What does that mean, though? We hear that term, try to process that, but it really does work. And she's somebody that is a testament to that. And she is somebody who is a heart-based intuitive, best-selling author, speaker, heart math coach, Reiki master, minister, and so much more. And Becki Koon is back with us on the program today. Becki, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And stepping into the flow.
I want to ask you, has it been the last couple of weeks for you and just in general, everybody, kind of crazy, a little wonky?
A little wonky. Yeah, it has been a little wonky. And Steve, the thing is, I have all these tools that I've learned along the way, right? To how to step into awareness of things and feel feel the energy of things. And this has been even an interesting week for me of having to make some decisions and dealing with some, financial stuff and things not necessarily meshing exactly the way that, I had visioned. So I found myself in that state this week of going, okay, Becki, you have the tools, breathe your way through it, trust that the universe has your back, trust that things are going to work out. There's nothing you can't handle that comes your way. And it's wasn't just me, Steve. It was, some of my clients as well. So
the reason,
maybe there's something in the air.
Yes. The reason I brought that up, it depends on if you subscribe to astrology, but we're in a Mercury retrograde. But even bigger than that, it's the retrograde of a number of planets at the same time, plus the full moon last week. Doesn't normally happen all like that. So in the astrologers that I've spoken to, they've told me, I say, okay, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, whoa, this is like just kind of a crazy ride during this retrograde period. They've all said, yeah, 9 or 10. This is one of those. So it sounds like, and I've experienced the same kind of thing, and just like weird moods of people, communication and everything. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. Maybe that's why you're feeling that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, I have a lot of energetic tools at my disposal. And by that, I mean, I practice heart focused breathing, and I practice meditation, and I practice those things that calm my system, that, and I get to do it with clients. So I'm in that state of acceptance and flow a lot of the time. But yeah, even, I have those times when things are just wonky, and we're not alone. We're all kind of facing it. So that does lead me to, to understand there is a bigger picture at play. We are impacted by those things that happen astrologically. Yeah.
Well, when we say go with the flow, I interpret that as you can only work on the things that you can change. Like I can't change the Mercury retrograde, if you believe in that. And I do, and I fought it in the beginning, but I've, so many intuitive people exposed me to it. And it's like, all right, there is a reason that's happening now. Why did it not happen? My printer got hacked. Why is that? I got everything locked down. Well, how does that happen? During the retrograde it did. What are the chances? Why not before? Why not after?
Yeah, well, it's no different than the moon. When the full moon's out, emergency room visits go up. There's an exact correlation.
There you go. So back to it, we can't change the full moon. So you go with the flow, but how do you adopt that mindset to and somebody said to me, just let the current in the water, like pretend you're in the water and just let it take you where it's got to take you. Cause you can't fight the current. You can swim a little bit here, maybe a little bit over there, but you can't swim back. You can't, there's nothing you can do. Just go with it. But how do you change this to make that all easier?
It's not easy when you're in the thick of it. Let me tell you,
For sure.
even with all the tools that I have, when you're in the thick of a stressor or something that you're having to deal with, it's not easy to get out of this mind, right?
Right.
It's like running like crazy. But the breath, like for me, breath work is key. And if I can
Hmm.
step back even for a moment, Steve, if I can just give myself a moment, like feeling like, okay, I'm feeling the anxiousness, I'm feeling the frustration of something. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, am I breathing? I mean, even that simple question, because sometimes we're not. Sometimes we get in that stress response and we're really not even physically breathing. And so it's a check. It's like, okay, wait a second. Am I breathing? Okay. Wow. Let me take a deep breath in and release it. And so that moves energy. It allows the body to kind of come back into, okay, let's reset, right? Let's reset. And something simple like that can give you a moment to kind of pull out of the intensity of what's happening. And so the more that you can remember, that's the key,
Mm.
remembering, right?
Yes. Yes. I got
The
you there.
breath. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't do it enough. And I think part of that, and I believe in it, but sometimes, when you're challenged by something, you're in the thick of it. So you're not thinking of what you should be doing, but it just seems too easy. And a lot of the times when something is just too easy, you're like, gonna make a difference. Come on, let me worry about it. Let me take care of this. Let me do this. When all you got to do is just stop, breathe,
Mhm.
reset, and then
Mhm.
continue on. Let's talk about the proper breathing techniques or ones that you suggest that are easy that can make a big difference.
Okay. Well, so there's such a thing called heart focused breathing. And, I work with a lot of people, even in session, that they're like, no, I do breathing. I meditate. I know how to do the breathing. But the shift and heart math, I'm a licensed heart math coach in the Heart Math Institute. They've done a lot of research, and we are shifting our focus, Steve, from our mind thinking about breathing and breath to imagining that the heart is breathing. So you take your focus out of the thinking mind and try to engage it into the body, right?
Hmm.
So do this with me for just a second, Steve. I want you to take a nice deep breath in and just imagine that it's your heart that's doing the breathing. Just use your imagination and allow that heart to take in the breath and then release out of the heart space. Feeling the chest, breathing into the heart and out of the heart. Nice and easy at whatever pace is comfortable for you. Breathe into the heart and out. Okay, so Steve, that was a really mini version of how you can reset your autonomic nervous system response. So how do you feel?
Chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting visualization when you think of the heart, because right away, for the first like 5 seconds, I'm like, I don't know. And then I got a picture of a heart, mine. Uh,
Mhm.
and this might sound weird, almost had a face. Like I didn't see features, but I almost pictured it as almost like a human in a way. And then that's where it, you know, where I moved it over from lungs to heart. But what an interesting way to look at things. Hmm.
Well, the studies show that if you focus on the heart response, like, and really there's a lot of belief that the seat of the soul resides in this heart space, this heart chakra, right? The emotional aspect of who we are as humans, right? And so you work from that space, and it shifts your autonomic nervous system response, and that can happen in seconds. That's why they teach emergency responders these techniques because they have to be right on. They have to respond really quickly and clear thinking. But if they can focus on the breath from the heart space, the heart focused breathing, they're able to think clearer. Like they're able to clear their minds. They're able to respond faster and clearer. So yeah, there's a ton of research, Steve, on how this is so effective and so simple.
That's just it. We are overthinking, analytical, logical beings. So when something is too good to be true, right away, what do? We're like, oh, it can't be that simple. And it's not. Why am I wasting my time doing this? It's not going to work. It's not going to do anything. But yeah, it is if you can get in that mindset. And
yeah,
I don't remember it until I do it. And then I think like, wow, that's good. Had a little challenge before. Now it seems okay. Yeah, it's manageable. Why did I worry? I know why I worried about whatever it was, but now it's like, okay,
sure,
all right. Yeah, I can move.
sure.
I can be proactive and move forward with that. Would you say going with the flow, that's step one, breathing?
Yeah, yeah. I would, because it's that because the body tenses up. The body's responding to stress, right? The body's responding to your mind going in a million directions, and the body's following suit. It's ready to flee. It's ready to fight. It's ready to do what it needs to do. And when you come into the body and you do breath and you reset, the body can relax. It releases different hormonal responses, and then you're able to go, maybe have a light bulb thought, oh, I could do that. Wow, why didn't I think of that before? Well, because I had cortisol running through my system and my brain was cortically inhibited. They say it's like a response to not being able to think clear. Have you heard people say, I was so stressed I couldn't even think straight?
I don't know if I ever shared this with you, and I'm trying to think back to our previous talks, but it's almost kind of embarrassing. But this is probably, I don't know, 7 years ago. And my friend's son was working on a decking project at my house. And he's probably in his mid-20s, whatever. He does that kind of work. And we were just kind of talking, and we're looking at each other like, I don't know what it is, but I feel so tired lately. It's just like, I'm like, even just moving, I'm just like tired. As we both talked about that, and we both were feeling the same thing, we determined that we weren't breathing properly. I'm not even kidding. And we took a second, we're like, we just breathe in short breaths. And that's all it was.
Shallow breath.
And sometimes when I find myself just kind of tired, I'm like, deep breath. Maybe that's what it is. And sure enough, it is. Usually that's what it is. And I've also heard too that in Asian cultures like China, people live longer because they don't take the shallow breaths that we take here in the United States. And it shortens our lifespan.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the body's not getting as much oxygen. It's not pumping through your cells, right? You're limiting the oxygen intake into the body. And the stress keeps us in that shallow breathing state. And most people don't even realize it, Steve. Most people aren't aware that they're shallow breathers, right? They're not even getting air into the lower part of the body, or the lower part of the lungs. And it's amazing what can happen. But it's even more so than that. It's the focus of the breath too. Like, getting out of if your mind is still going, I got to breathe, I got to do this many, I got to do this many seconds. It's got to be this certain way. I mean, if you're analyzing it, you're still in that response with the body. So it's really getting focus out of the mind into the body that then calms the state, right? And yeah, it's
so you did a mini version of it.
Just don't.
Okay. And I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a delay with our Zoom here. So I'm sorry if I step on you. You gave us a little taste of it. If you were to do the long version, what would be different?
if you do the longer version, then what happens is you do go into that state of clarity. Like your body goes into rest and reset. Okay. So the hormonal responses shift and change. And clarity is much easier to access. Intuition, intuitive thoughts, inspired thought, connection to your higher awareness, your higher self, all of that takes place. The more that you can practice and do that kind of breath work and breathing and, going into meditation. So really, Steve, key is body awareness. Like that's what I teach my people all the time. It's like, getting ourselves out of the computer, right? The mind is an amazing, amazing computer, but it only knows data that the body responds from a different awareness, right? The body response is a different consciousness, if you could put it that way, right? And so getting and feeling the body is a way to then calm the storm, think clear about what you're doing, and then make decisions from that state. And so, working in session with me, people will have, all of a sudden they'll have an insight or an awareness, or they will tap into that other dimension where they end up saying, oh my gosh, I feel Jesus, or, oh, wow, I just felt my mom, so that can happen, right? It's
Wow.
It's a beautiful thing when we allow it.
Interesting, because that's probably where a lot of people find their creativity, find their connection to spirit. All this stuff comes into play because they blocked everything out and they're just aware of themselves and they're breathing. And that's where that, again, if you believe in these kind of things, I do, where you get signs from spirit, universe, somebody who crossed over, whatever it might be. You're open to it. I was driving the other day and I have this vision one day of moving, like to move to a warmer climate, maybe Florida, whatever it might be. And I found myself getting into a certain zone where I was just I was driving at night and I was focusing ahead, but I wasn't looking at the stuff around me. I was just at the road and I was visualizing I was in another state. And I actually felt like I was there. And I equate that kind of
Wow.
to what we're talking about and I really did. Like I'm driving out, and these are roads I travel all the time, but I'm just focusing here and not this. And this would be those distractions that are around us in our life. And this is what I can do with my mind. I truly felt like I was in Florida. Like, I'm here. Interesting. Wow. And it was like maybe a 10-minute drive. And I was feeling that way. So I'm bringing that up, as weird as it sounds, because it does sound like it's in line with what we're talking about with the breathing, to block all that other stuff out and then just go right here.
Well, and there are people who say that that's part of manifesting, right? If you're visioning something for your future. So Steve, like you're driving down the road and you're feeling the energy of being in a different state. That will then magnetize energetically that very vision, right? There are people who say that's how you manifest. You feel it, you embody it, you have that awareness of, I am living that. And so we are powerful, Steve. We are powerful beings, and we have the ability to transmute and change what's happening within us physically. Like, and there's so much science behind it too. That's what's exciting to me, is the science.
I'm glad you said that, the manifest, because I'm a believer in that. I'm reading a book on it now. I believe I was manifesting at that moment. I put up, some happy songs on. They were songs from back in the day. They were completely random, just garbage pops in my head. I'm like, all right, let me listen to that. And I felt like I was doing just what you said. And I've even done it in the past where, wait for it, weird moment, that I manifested the perfect partner. And one day I was just sitting in my car. I was waiting for somebody. I just had like time to kill. And I just, in a zone, the sun was setting, and I visualized somebody in the passenger seat and even visualized the conversation, even said a couple of words. And it was like it was real. like it was
Yeah.
real. It was almost freaky, but it sounds weird until you get into that zone. And then it's almost like your mind is creating things for you. And I don't mean that in a crazy way. It's, you're creating your reality, what you really want. And like you said, if you look at the research of manifestation, we are what we think. We are what we eat.
Right.
You've overheard that. We've always heard that, but you are
Yeah.
what you think. So you
Mhm.
are going, if you're thinking something, you are creating it right there, good or bad, usually not for the better, because
Right.
a lot of us
Right.
are so negatively wired, right?
Well, yes, yes. But what's exciting, Steve, is that we can do that because first, everything is a vision. Everything. There's not anything manifested on this in this world, right? Nothing has been manifest without first being a vision,
Right.
right? It's somebody's vision. And then that vision became stronger. And then the work on the ground, the boots on the ground, right, takes place to make something happen. But everything starts with vision, and you learn how to empower that, right?
Mm.
You learn how to amp that up.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
so
Thank
you
you
do
for
that when you step in.
thank you for not making me sound like a weirdo, because what you just said is the reality. Nikolai Tesla, when he had all of his
Yeah.
experiments, and by the way, if you research him, the king of manifestation, he didn't have there was no power, no electricity, nothing like that. He built this big tower, Tesla coils and all of that, and the principle behind that is what's in our engines now. You turn on your vacuum, your car, whatever, it all came from him. He had a vision. He manifested what he believed in, what he wanted. Think about every product that this thing right over here, this phone thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody had a vision for that and put it into play, and it became the reality, but it had to start there. When you're
Yeah.
working with somebody, how do you teach the breathing technique? Is like, elementary type stuff?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. And I do it right there with them. So I'll work with them, whether it's a Zoom or whether it's somebody on the table, it doesn't matter. We will do the breathing because it also helps us get in alignment. So what happens is when you're with someone and you're both doing heart focused breathing, they call it heart coherence, right? You go into that calm state or that state of coherence within the body. But it also happens when you're with someone so that you both go into that state. Because we're energetic beings. You're right. The heart is 5,000 times more powerful energetically than the brain, than the mind, right? They measure it with electromagnetometers, right? So we have this capacity then when we're working together to go into this state of balance together. And then it helps the session. It helps us both tune in to what the person needs, what's coming through, how can I best serve this person. So yes, the breathing is a really important part.
Wow. Can you share your website, how we can reach you, Becki?
Yeah, sure. It's BeckiKoon.com, BeckiKoon.com.
It's so interesting when you think about it musically. There's so many songs written about breathing. and why? Because it's so important. I think of all of it, and how many songs that there are when you start Google it. There's a ton of them because it's so important. Others have realized that.
Well, if you think about it, Steve, we come into this world with breath. It's the first thing. It's the first thing when we come into this world. It's what we do every moment in between. And then when we leave, we take our last. So, breath is key to life. And yet,
Well, I just got the visual.
forget.
We forget, and because we take it for granted, like most things in life. Baby's born. What does the doctor do?
Yeah.
Get it to breathe. Speaking of music, guitars, keyboard, background, your place, what's going on there?
This is my recording studio. It was actually my late husband's studio. He was a musician and he had a recording studio, taught lessons, and yeah. So we created this studio, built this studio,
Cool.
and I've kept it intact. So yeah.
Good for
So
you.
you see me from the studio.
I have this secret desire and ambition to be an awesome guitar player. I can't. It's not good. Yeah. I don't want to say I can't do it. I just don't have enough desire or the time at this time. But, that's the secret, ambition inside. Basically to play bass. That would be it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I have a bass up on the wall too. So
yeah, no.
Come to Montana, Steve, we'll play.
I love what you got there. I'd like to just, pop into your place. Thank you, Becki. Come back in about an hour. Nobody's around and just kind of tool around with it. But, funny story just popped in my head. I'm seeing Sting tonight in concert. Yeah, going with my sister. It's, we've always, twin sister. So it's like our birthday present to each other. And it's funny. I remember seeing him when I was like 25. And I was standing somewhere near the stage and somebody came out and said, yeah, what are you doing? You're going to be on in about 20 minutes. They thought it was him.
Well, you totally look like him.
Well,
I know, I see it too.
If that happens tonight and I strap on a bass, I'll send you some video, whatever happens.
There you go, do. Okay, have a blast.
Yeah,
Great.
but first I'll breathe because I'll freak out. Becki, wonderful talking with you and all the best. Thank you for all the details. And yeah, everybody just breathe and we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.